What up, y'all? What's good? Back again. Another day. It's your boy, the Curtis York, and I'm live again every night until we hit 500 subscribers. We are going live. Right now, we are 47 subscribers away, so we still doing the dang thing. Shout out to everybody from Yorktown. Shout out to the New Yorkers. Shout out to all the OG citizens of Yorktown. I appreciate y'all. Hold on. All right, y'all. So, as you can see, we have a topic tonight, dealing with transactional people. And I know I'm a little early tonight, but I really want to spend some time with my wife, and I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in a while. So, I'm here now, getting it out the way so that I can have the rest of my afternoon. So, if you're catching the playback and you thought I was going to be on a little later, I apologize. I know my loyal crew it's probably gonna miss it, but it's all good, y'all. The playback is just as good, I assure you. It's probably better. No, it's not better. You definitely got to catch your boy live because that's really where it goes down. But the playback ain't that bad. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about tonight was dealing with transactional people, and I got to shout out my guy over at Get That Money Now, Rich Burns. Um, we've been kind of playing ping pong with this topic a little bit. So I wanted to double back on it and just talk about dealing with transactional people because ultimately, no matter what you do. And another thing that inspired this was I saw an article about, hey, and my boy Rich is in the building. That's what I'm talking about. Um, yeah, so I saw an article the other day that was talking about office politics, and it made me think because one of my most popular videos is actually me talking about office politics and how your coworkers aren't your friends. But at the same time, you know, um, you're gonna have to deal with transactional people. They are a part of the world, just like people don't like bees because they sting you, but bees also help produce honey. So, it's just a part of life. You're going to have to deal with transactional people. So, what I wanted to do with this video is just talk about how to deal with it. And another thing that sparked this, so we got Rich who talked about it, the article that popped up the other day. And then I was watching a show with my wife last night. It was called The 100. And it's talking to basically the show is a science fiction dystopian story where there were a bunch of people like basically the earth blew up, it was destroyed. Well, it wasn't destroyed, but the nuclear bombs went off, and you know they thought that the earth was inhabitable, so all of the nations went to space and they lived in a space station that was set, um what's it called, orbiting the earth. And so eventually they found out the earth was inhabitable, so they flew back down to earth. And then when they flew back down to earth, they found out that there were people that were already living on earth, and their bodies had adapted. And then there was another group of people that were living on earth, but they lived in a mountain. And because they were in the mountain, it was like a bomb shelter, so the nuclear radiation didn't affect them. So you have the space people that lived out in space. You had the ground people, who they called grounders, who survived the nuclear holocaust somehow and their bodies adapted. And then you have the mountain people who lived inside of the mountain, which was a blast shelter, and they were able to survive the nuclear apocalypse. You with me? I know it's a lot. It's science fiction, so we kind of out there. But anyways, and it applies because we're going to talk about human nature. And it doesn't matter. Human nature is human nature, whether it's in the office, whether it's 1,000 years in the future or 1,000 years in the past. Technology may change, but human nature does not change at all. And I'm getting there. So basically, it got to the point where the people in the mountain realized that the people outside, the grounders and the sky people, were both immune to the radiation because there was still just radiation in the air. But the people that lived in the mountain, they did not naturally produce that resistance to the radiation because they never got exposed to it. They were in the mountain. So whenever they go outside, their skin would burn and they would basically just die. So the mountain people started kidnapping outside people and taking their bone marrow because when they took their bone marrow, it would allow them to build up the resistance and then they could go outside. So they started kidnapping people. They also had a lot of weapons and access to things that the ground people and the sky people didn't have. So stick with me because I'm getting there. So the mountain people started kidnapping everybody outside because they realized that they could use their blood and they'd be able to deal with the immunity. Now, the leader of the ground people, she was a lieutenant. Well, she was the leader. So she was basically running everything. She's a female, but she was extremely calculated. Like she was like it was a situation where they knew a bomb was coming from the mountain people and she didn't say anything and she let her people get killed because if she told them, then that would have gave her the edge. Basically, she was the transactional person. So she measured things in terms of success or failure, not about how it affected people or, the outcome. If it blew back on other people, so be it. As long as, the greater good, she was thinking about the whole and not necessarily the pieces. So if 1,000 ground people die because they got blown up because of a bomb and it protects us, it is what it is. Because if we tell those 1,000 people and they run away, then it puts everybody at risk. So it got to the point where the leader of the ground people and the leader of the sky people decided that they were going to work together and attack the mountain people to free their people. So this is where it gets transactional, and this is where we're going. So the sky people leader and the ground people leader form an alliance and they say, we're going to work together. We're going to figure out how to get inside the mountain and we're going to save all of our people. And we're going to do what we got to do. Whatever happens to the mountain people happens to the mountain people because they've been killing all our people. So they get to the door and the door obviously is a blast door because if it could survive a nuclear explosion, then obviously it could survive a bunch of random people. So the people figured out how to get inside the door. They shut down some stuff on the inside. They had an inside man who broke out and he was destroying stuff on the inside. So they got to the door, but they couldn't get inside the door because the mountain people had a couple people who'd already taken the bone marrow and they were outside sniping them. So the leader of the ground people said, "Yo, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna flank, and we're gonna take out the snipers. Y'all wait here, and we're gonna open the door. And when y'all open the door, we're all gonna rush in. And now we got some casualties, right? Yeah, exactly. They about to just shut everything down. So the leader of the ground people goes over and she attacks the mountain people that are sniping them, and we don't see this, but what she does is she creates an agreement between the sky people, not the sky people, between the ground people and the mountain people. She says, "Yo, you let our people go, and we'll let your people go, and whatever happens to the sky people, it is what it is. But we're good. If you let the ground people go, then we'll let the mountain people go. We'll do a hostage exchange, and y'all just figure out what y'all gonna do with the sky people, because we don't have any loyalty to the sky people." So that's what happens. And when they come back, the leader of the sky people is looking distraught, like she's trying to figure out what's going on because she didn't realize that the leader of the ground people was playing a totally different chess game. She thought that they were buddy buddy and they were loyal to each other, but they weren't loyal to each other. The leader of the ground people was purely 100% transactional, and she was only going to do what served her best interest. Now, why am I telling y'all that long story? I'm telling y'all that long story because in life, you're going to come across people who, as long as your interests and their interests are aligned, they'll be your best friend. As long as y'all are on the same page and y'all are focusing on the same goal or the same mission, y'all will be best friends in order to achieve that goal. But if for any instance your goals don't align with their goals any longer, then it's like you never met that person. You never knew them because those people deal on a transactional basis. That's how geopolitics works. 100%. 100%. And where you lie on that spectrum, it doesn't matter. And the reason I say it doesn't matter is because you have to know, no matter what, how to deal with those types of people. You got to know that there are some people that no matter what you do, you'll never be their friend. They have their friends, they've had their friends 20 years ago. And, no matter how many deals y'all do, no matter how much, y'all shake hands or give hugs or drink or whatever y'all do, you will never be that person's friend. That person is only using you as a pawn. And, a lot of people get offended by that. A lot of people take it personally, but it's not a bad thing. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you know, you just got to know how to deal with those people, and you got to understand that it's not personal, it's just business. There are people in this world that look at things purely as transactions. And if we're being totally honest and just looking at things and we remove the emotion, everything is transactional. If one person interacts with another person, then it is a transaction because somebody's getting something from the other person. For example, right now, you're watching this video. I'm talking to you. This is a transaction. Why? Because I'm getting your time. You could be doing anything in the world with your time. You could be watching anybody else that has a YouTube channel. You could be listening to the radio. You could be listening to a podcast. You could be listening to an audio book. You could be talking to somebody. There's just so many other things that you could be doing, but you're listening to me. Hopefully, I'm providing you value. If you're listening to this content, then you're getting value out of it. So it's a transaction. I'm giving you something. I'm giving you value, even if it's entertainment. I'm giving you value, and you're giving me your time. I'm taking your time. Your time is measured in YouTube based on watch time. So it is a transaction. If one person talks to another person, if two people talk at the same time, then nobody hears the other person. So it's not a transaction. But if one person is talking and the other person is listening, it is a transaction because a message is being communicated. As a matter of fact, even if two people are talking at the same time, it's still a transaction. It's just that the message that's being communicated isn't clear. Unless it's conflict, then it's very clear. So, you just got to understand that everything is a transaction and it's not a bad thing. You do something for your wife, your wife does something for you. It's a transaction. You make your wife feel good, your wife makes you feel good. You know, um, you give your kid a bottle, the kid stops crying. You feed them, they love you. Everything, and that's just the reality of the world. We live in a codependent society. The only way you wouldn't have transactions in human interactions is if one person lived all the way over here by themselves, another person lived all the way over here by themselves, and nobody interacted or nobody communicated with each other. As long as you have people, you're going to have transactions, and that's just the reality of the thing. I think the issue is with a lot of people, let me see. You have to have incredible control of your emotions to be able to engage continuously with a person like that. 100%. Um, and I think the biggest piece of control of your emotions is just understanding that that is what that person is. I think the biggest issue is when that person blindsides you and they catch you off guard. That's where the disconnection comes from. Because if that person is upfront and they let you know, like, this is strictly a business relationship, it's nothing personal. If things don't work out, I'm going my way, you go your way. That's one thing, because you know what you're dealing with upfront. You know what you're getting. A lot of people get burned or they get the short end of the stick because the thing about a lot of transactional people is that, you know, they will do what they need to do in order to get what they want, which means that if they need to manipulate or if they need to con, they're very adept at reading body language. They're really adept at understanding language, and they're really good at just working people, being charming, persuasive, the whole nine. So I think that's really where a lot of people have a bad connotation of manipulation and transactional people and things of that nature. But again, it's just reality. It's something that you can't get away from. Now, to talk about the best way to deal with them, um, I say obviously the first thing you want to do is always take a step back when you're meeting people. You want to focus on them. You listen to them, you let them talk, you listen, and you take notes and you learn. And what you want to do with everybody that you meet is you want to build a profile, because what you find out is, there's a lot of different people, but people have a lot of very similar traits. I saw somewhere that people only meet 5 people in their life, and the 5 people that they meet may have different faces, they may be different places, but it's the same 5 people. You have an aggressive person, you have a passive person, you have a talkative person, you have a person with low self-esteem, you have a person with high self-esteem. you know um so you just have to figure out the type of person that you're dealing with. And usually people don't come out and say, hey, I'm very toxic, I like to lie to people, I like to start drama, I like to start confusion, and I like to do dirty things and hide my hands. That typically doesn't happen. People aren't that upfront and honest. So you have to listen to them, let them talk, let them tell you stories. Let them describe past situations. And when they do that, what you want to do is you kind of want to just take notes and observe and see if things add up. If somebody always says that people are always bothering me and they're picking on me, then, either they're a passive person or they're an aggressive person and they just trigger people and they just can't understand, because people aren't very self-aware. And that's something that I had to learn in my life as well. A lot of people don't research themselves, a lot of people don't look at themselves, and they don't like to deal with their negative traits. So you have a lot of people out here that are totally different from who they actually are and who they think they are. Like, they think that they're these nice, sweet, innocent people, but really they're like the most evil people that just do dirty things, and they're just manipulative. And again, that's how people get burned and they have scars, because they just feel blindsided by these people that they don't deal with. Yeah, that's right. You put them in 5 categories, and then, it's like you take this person, you drag them over here, and you just watch. If they exhibit these traits, then you know that it's this type of person, and you know how to deal with them. If it's somebody that's very ego driven, then the last thing you want to do is make them angry, because if you bruise somebody's ego, they will go to hell and high water just to soothe their ego. A lot of people think that people with high self-esteem, with low self-esteem, are just these people that live in boxes and they're sheltered and they're shy. No, people with low self-esteem will do anything to make sure that their self-esteem is intact. So if you have somebody with low self-esteem and a very high ego, those are the people that if you accidentally step on their shoe in the club, they might shoot you. Like, though, that's those type of people. And if you have somebody with low self-esteem and a high and a low ego, then that's when you get that person that is shy, sitting in the corner, and they won't say anything because they have low self-esteem and a low ego. You know, if you have a high self-esteem and a low ego, those are typically the best people to work with, because people with high self-esteem, they can take slights. They don't take things personally. They don't get easily offended. Because they have high self-esteem. They know, like, people with high self-esteem and low egos, those are usually the guys that are really good with women, because if they get rejected, their ego is still intact, because they don't really care. It's like, hey, I just go talk to somebody else because I have high self-esteem. I know I can probably get another woman. So, those are the type of things that you want to look out for. Dealing with transactional people, you always have to understand that, once you establish that this person is a transactional person, don't ever try to appeal to that person's emotions, because, it doesn't matter how you feel. All that matters is what you can do for them. So, if you want that person to help you out, then you need to figure out what you can give them. And sometimes it's not always money. Sometimes it's just something, it's bragging rights. Sometimes it's something that you can do for them. So, the best way to deal with transactional people is to, one, identify them, and two, figure out how you can get involved in the transaction with them. And then, as Rich said, it can take a toll on you. So, you never really want to deal with them long term. It's usually like, so in investing in real estate, you have what's called a hard money lender. And a hard money lender is somebody that will give you money, but they charge a really high interest rate and they put points on it. And a point is just a percentage. So 1 point is 1%. So if I sell a house for $100, that means that, and they have a 2% interest rate. That means that I have to give back $1.02. And if I mean, yeah, I had to give them back that $100 plus $2. Yeah, $102. And if they say they want 3 points, then it becomes $105 because that's the 102 plus the 3 points. So $105 total. So, the thing about hard money is when you're dealing with hard money, you want to get the deal done as quickly as possible because once the deal is done, you make your money, you give them their money back, and then you move on. But the longer you hold on to the the longer the deal takes, the more expensive it becomes because the interest rate is so high. So when you're dealing with those type of people, you want to get the deal done as quickly as possible. And you always got to remember that they're a loose cannon because if their goals deviate from your goals for any reason, they will just walk away from the table because they don't need you. You're not friends. You don't have any familiar bond. You don't have anything outside of the business transaction. So, dealing with transactional people, it's just a part of life. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's like, you know, a tree. A tree isn't good or bad. A tree gives you air, it helps you breathe. But if a tree falls on your house, it's not a bad tree. It's just your house was in a bad place. So, you just got to understand not to take it personally. And it's hard. Like Rich said, it is hard. It is incredibly hard. Like when somebody gets over on you, it can be very, very, very painful. It can leave scars and wounds. And honestly, that's why a lot of people just decide not to deal with transactional people to begin with. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Like, because it takes a lot of work and it's a lot of loose threads and anything. If the wind blows too hard, then you got to deal with it on a different level. So, a lot of people just opt out of it. But here's the thing, sometimes it's your manager. Sometimes it's your mom or your dad or somebody that you just can't get away from. Sometimes it's your wife, it's the person that you lay with. So, you got to figure out how to deal with those situations or how to remove yourself and not deal with the damage because it does leave a lot of scars and it takes time to recover. But that's it for tonight, guys. Shout out to my guy Rich for, putting the topic in my ether, man. I really appreciate that guy. Make sure y'all check out Get That Money Now. I tagged him in the description, so y'all can click the link and it'll take you directly to his page. Check him out, man. Um, I'm about to eat and then get ready for bed. And we'll be back on here tomorrow, but we'll probably be back at regular time. I ain't gonna lie. I just gotta eat, y'all. So I'm gonna holler. See y'all tomorrow.